So I have this Ronstan battle stick universal joint that's meant as a tiller extension, and I want to insert it into this carbon fiber tube. Now, the inside diameter of the carbon fiber tube is a very precise 0.502, and the outside diameter of the plug is more like 0.51, 0.52, sometimes as much as 0.53. Doesn't seem like a lot, but it's enough that trying to get this plug into this tube is going to be extremely challenging. So the first thing I'm going to do is to create a chamfer on the end of this. I'm using a pair of good, sharp, diagonal cutters, pressing them right against that hard edge of the rubber and pushing hard, squeezing the diagonal cutters. I'm just taking a little nibble all around the edge. I'm not removing a lot, but I am getting some of that rubber away from the edge. Now, once I've gone all the way around the plug, again, pushing very hard into the jaws of the diagonal cutters. Now I have a little chamfer around there, and this is going to help me to line it up inside the tube. It'll actually go in maybe a millimeter, maybe a little less at this point, but not much more than that. But this certainly helps lining it up. Next thing I'm going to do is I've got a drill with a very small drill bit. This is a 5/64 drill bit, and I've chucked it so that it's just the full length of that plug. Now I'm going to very carefully drive the bit directly down the center of the plug. I'm going to try to get as close to the center as I possibly can, and I am going to run it straight down that plug. So now I've got the plug so that I can spin it on the end of the drill. Next, I've got a metal file, and while the plug is chucked on the end of my drill, I'm going to spin the plug and hold the metal file very firmly against the plug. I'm actually putting quite a bit of pressure against the plug. Now, you might think that a power tool like this would remove a lot of material quickly, but you'll find that it actually doesn't remove much at all. In fact, this could be a very long process to make any appreciable change in the outside diameter of that plug. Once again, I'm putting a lot of pressure against it. I'm focusing most of the pressure on the very tip because, again, I'm trying to extend that chamfer and because of what I'm going to do in the next step. But still, I want to reduce the overall outside diameter till it's just over a half of an inch. So how long you want to continue filing down the plug is a bit of a judgment call. You want to get it as close as possible without going under. Now the next step, using that same hole that I had drilled into the end of the plug, I'm going to insert a piece of hardware. I have this small eye bolt, and I'm going to insert it into that hole, and I can twist it by hand. Now, this is why I used a very small drill bit, because we want these threads to bite. I'm going to thread it in as far as I can to make sure that I get good bite on those threads. Next thing I've done is I've cut a stout coat hanger and grabbed the straight section out of the bottom of it. And I've used a pair of vice grips to make a nice tight bend on one end. This tight bend is going to allow me to hook my piece of hardware. Now I can take my carbon fiber tube, insert it on the other end, now I can start to get that plug in place. Now on the other end of the stout coat hanger, this is about 12 inches long, it doesn't need to be quite that long. I'm going to make a slightly bigger loop. So we've used the coat hanger to create a tool that can be used to pull the plug into the tube. We don't want to try to push the plug into the tube, because that will simply cause the plug to expand and get fatter and make it more difficult to go in. Instead, we want to be able to put the plug under tension, which hopefully should make it a little narrower. Once we have this assembled and the plug is somewhat inside the tube, I'm going to pour a little bit of rubbing alcohol into the tube. This is going to lubricate the inside of the tube and the rubber, not filling the tube with it, just a little bit in it. Then I'm going to put some on my hands and rub it around the outside of the plug. Now, we're ready for the big moment. Now, you're going to need to find something that's almighty strong. This is a hook that's meant to be padlocked to a very solid wooden door that I can hook it into that loop. Now I'm going to use my left hand to pull on that plug. Again, I'm trying to elongate it. I'm putting it under tension so that it's being stretched. With my right hand, I'm going to take the tube and I'm going to try to twist it onto that plug. Again, the plug is under tension. Now, as I'm doing this, something could go wrong, which is that threaded fastener might pull out of the plug. So I'm careful to notice that there's nothing fragile behind me, like a glass cabinet or a cliff that I might fall off. But again, I'm pulling and twisting, and you see that the distance between is getting smaller, and now it's as far as it's going to go. I can take the other end and untwist it, and that will remove my threaded fastener my coat hanger tool, and the plug is now inside the tube and ready for use.